Well, good afternoon, and it's a great pleasure to be here with this group at a time when interest in globalization seems to be, for a variety of reasons, some fortunate, some unfortunate, increasing again. And so what I'm supposed to talk about is small topic, the future of globalization in a VUCA world. VUCA is an acronym I'll come back to in a little bit if you haven't previously encountered it. But this is a lot to talk about, so I'm going to do three things. First of all, I'm going to talk relatively rapidly. Second, as a professor, I will leave you with suggestions for further reading. And third, I'm going to be relatively structured and start off by talking a little bit about perceptions of the world that we live in before we get on to what these laws of globalization are that I allege are very helpful at cutting our way through some of the uncertainty that lies ahead, and come back to the questions of, okay, how likely are we to have a global trade war, the question that's on everybody's mind, and given the uncertainty around that, is there anything specific we can say about business do's or business don'ts? So let me get started, and before I plunge into my slides, I always like to get a sense, especially if I can see the responses, of the audience's perspective on things. So on this slide, I have three quotes. They're kind of long, so let me just summarize them for you. There are three very different takes on globalization. The first one says the world is local. The last one says the world is flat and borders and distance don't matter at all. And the one in the middle is somewhere in the middle. So if you had to pick one of these quotes as your best sense of where the world is likely to be in 5 years, think about it. And again, since I'm used to teaching MBAs, ground rules are everybody has to vote. It's a compulsory voting system. You're only allowed to vote once, and there is no fourth option. So local, somewhere in between, or global, and let me see if I can at least get a rough show of hands. How many people would go for the first quote? Okay. Second one? Third one? So this is clearly, things have changed a little bit since the time I first ran the survey about 5 years ago on the blog I write for Harvard Business Review. That time around, local commanded about 10% support, completely flat commanded 62% support, and the notion of a world somewhere in the middle, which I've also written a book about titled World 3.0, had about 28% support. So I guess there's been a little bit more, been a little bit of movement from thinking about the world being completely integrated to recognizing that there's still bumps and discontinuities that arise at national borders. So that seems, of course, triggered by a lot of news events that we've had over the last little bit. This is just one of them, although according to AP's survey of newspaper editors in the US, this was the top news story of 2016. On this side of the pond, the Financial Times regarded Brexit as the bigger story and Trump as the secondary story, and I'm not going to quarrel about the precise rankings. I'll mostly use President-elect Trump, since I can still say that today, as the anchor for my examples. But if you're more interested in Brexit, most of what I'm going to say, you could switch in Brexit for Trump or do what I'm increasingly doing, which is talking about Brump as a general manifestation of some of the things that are going on right now.